bartender coming from Key Largo. We it is Thursday. The What date is it? The 22nd, I imagine. Yes, it is. Yesterday was the 21st, 23rd. Thursday the 23rd. My mistake. Yesterday was the 22nd. So it is the 22nd. We are in Florida. We are the epicenter of the coronavirus. If you don't believe that, that's fine. You know, I, we, I'm still working at the restaurant, and recently I know I see some two older women come out. They're, uh, it was on Monday night, and they had a couple sitting near the bar at a table, and the lady was in her 90s, who she was using a walker, and I noticed she's wearing stretch pants, and that's why the title is "Stretch Pants Aren't for Everyone." But then, I guess if you're 90 something years old, it really doesn't matter what the rules don't apply to you. And I don't mean that facetiously. I mean that truly. That if you reach 94, yeah, as long as you're covering your uh, tender parts and stuff like that, I guess it really doesn't matter for them. But I mentioned to the gentleman that was sitting at the uh, table nearby, I told him, hey, check out the stretch pants, because he's always staring at ladies. And he just turned around and he suggested that he burnt his retinas staring at this lady. She had the physique of a woman that walks around with a walker, and he's 94 years old. So we get a lot of those down here, and just like you would see pictures in Walmart and things like that, we get it's a similar kind of thing down in our place. Obviously, we get people that look really good in those items, stretch pants, but not. This was not the case. So yesterday, I roll into work, and there is 7 people sitting at tables around the bar. They're near the bar, and I had to tell them. I said, "Listen, the bar's not open, so you can't use it for your drinks and things like that." So I got them moved up there, and then everyone started chiming in. Actually, there were 2 tables nearby that started chiming in. I wasn't there more than 2 minutes. I'm just trying to make sure that we don't get any fines for doing anything that isn't uh, I guess that would be, I would call it code, but it's not code. It's currently a government mandate, or whatever you want to call it, to mitigate social distancing and things like that. But the bars are closed in Florida. So the one guy says to me, he says, "Oh, well, listen, you hear about all that stuff down in, you hear that report a couple days ago?" And I said, that report, you should watch that. It says, "Yeah, there's nobody in the hospitals. It's all fake." Like, oh, really? It's all fake. The ICUs being full, which it is not. I know people that live there. I know people that disagree, that agree that they are full. They don't know why they're full. They can't really verbalize why it's full. But this gentleman suggested that the hospitals were empty, and you see idiots driving up and the hospitals, and they see empty parking lots because the people that are in the ICUs that are using them, that are infected, are not allowed to have visitors, and a lot of the people that are in the ICUs did not drive themselves to the hospital. And so if you're not allowed to visit, you're not allowed to be in a hospital. They don't want you waiting downstairs and stuff. So you'll see an inordinate amount of empty parking spaces. So I had that one guy, and he started going off. And so I gleaned all this information from him about the hospitals being empty and stuff like that in 10 seconds. And I just said, okay, that's enough. So I chose not to even argue with the guy at this point. I just said, nope, we're not going to do it. And then this other, let me call it asshole or idiot, he goes down, he goes, well, the Democrats are doing it. He said that, and I said no. And finally I just said nope to him. And this idiot this is the second time. This is getting to be a pattern, which he's not going to really enjoy sitting at my, because I don't want this guy here. He had a he's a liver transplant recipient, and he comes in all liquored up after fishing. I mean, doing half-day fishing trips or something. He gets dropped off, and he, I don't know what is wrong with him. He just doesn't. He may have like 2-3 beers, and I guess I don't know if it's a side effect to having a liver transplant, but he always seems to be out of it. Who do we have? Oh, that's a spam call. Decline. That was a phone call that came in. So this guy comes in, gets dropped, wanders, has a beer or two, says some stupid shit, and then waits like an hour or two to get picked up again. So I had to tell these guys that the conversation wasn't welcome. And they said, why is that? And I said, well, I have to be here. I work here. You don't have to be here. And we don't have to talk about this. I know. I'm not. This is a restaurant, not a political forum. And I realize nothing I have to say will convince these guys. This guy, we were just talking about the report. He didn't even have a name of the report he wanted to talk about. I didn't even want to get into it with delving into it. But he says, oh, the report. So what report? No, that. And I go, oh, okay. So he probably was on Breitbart or something like that. So I have these things all the time. I have these debates on Facebook, and I have them with the friends that come in the bar and stuff like that. There are people that allow to, yeah, I know. You heard me say it, allow. Well, I got to be there. I got to be at the bar. So what else am I going to do? You know, I can't. I can't go anywhere. So what I do is I say, listen, I got to be here for a while. So for my peace of mind, we're not going to have this conversation, and I'm not going to sit there discussing with people that believe you shouldn't be watching the news or tracking it. And I understand that people are very angry. People are very angry, especially people that support the guy that's currently at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. They're very angry because everything looks bad for him. Weird. Everything seems bad for him. So many people out of work. So many people infected. His policies, that his interviews. He just went on a Fox interview and told that he aced an Alzheimer's test. And a lot of people, he was talking about how great he remembered 5 different things, and he recognized an elephant and what day it was. It was, hey, sometimes I don't get the days right, stuff like that. That's the way it is. But it doesn't mean you don't have Alzheimer's. Just because you do have Alzheimer's. There's lots of people that don't know what day it is. And it's, if you don't have a calendar in front of you and stuff like that, they're all blend together, especially when you don't have to write down the date if you're not writing it on checks and things like that. But I do know where I live. I don't wake up not knowing that, and I understand facts and things. I understand who the expert is. So if we recall, a couple months ago, there was a video going around Facebook called Plandemic, and it was mainly pushed around by conspiracy theorists about some lady who has a questionable background in medicine, or whatever, a researcher, and they were saying that, this is all planned and things like that, the whole thing, and it's just taking away your freedom and stuff like that. While that has gone by the wayside, the current resident of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue says it is real and it's patriotic to wear your mask because he couldn't lie about the numbers anymore. That's why. And Kellyanne Conway come out, and she's calling out the states that opened too quickly. Georgia, Florida, Texas, California, right? Remember when California was supposed to, they said they were going to stay till August 1st. Well, they're going to end up, Los Angeles County is probably going to wind up closing again for a couple months. They could have done it. They had the wherewithal. They just didn't do it because there was a lot of people pushing back. A lot of people pushed back. So right now, I'm dealing with people, and this is and okay, I'm going to speculate. This is a theory, but it's anecdotal. It's a thought experiment for people. And listen, if you like to call in, if there's one person listening live, you can use my Skype number. We're going to be posting this Skype number for our live shows from now on. And the number is 407-392-4563. You'll be the first person calling in. And you know what? I know this could backfire. It could get, hopefully there's not angry people listening to this show. They shouldn't be listening to the show. If you're angry, I don't turn on One American News and just sit there and get angry. I would go and listen to something, for your confirmational bias. If you're getting angry, if you're not really, obviously, if you're just following conspiracy and you're saying, well, I don't listen to news, what I do listen to is these people that post these conspiracy theories like Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, Tucker Carlson, whatever, the guy that denies the Newtown shooting, that guy, Alex Jones. So, yeah, you can listen to all those people, which, how's that? I mean, you think they're reliable. They're just going back. The administration just went back. This administration just went back on what they were saying originally. How it wasn't important, how it was going to disappear, how they're doing great on it, how they're going to be putting out the fires. Well, they're not putting out the fires. You know why? Because they didn't mandate the same things as the other countries. Yes, they've seen some uptick, but whenever they see the uptick, they just reinforce the mandates that they have about wearing masks and the penalties for it. And having a penalty for something that could do real harm, like cause someone to die or get sick or get introduced into a ICU, introduced to a ventilator intimately, that's a good thing to stop that. We're trying to stop that. There's nothing wrong with it now. Let's celebrate the things we need to do in order to protect the people around us. Really not important. But anecdotally, what I'm saying is, think of this thought experiment. We're in the Keys right now, and I did a show Tuesday, right after the Monroe County Board of County Commissioners. What they did was they had a meeting. They had called on very short notice. Let me give you a little background. Monroe County, Florida, we have one main tether to the mainland. That's Route 1, and it splits at the top of the where it meets the mainland. There's Card Sound Road and there's Route 1, and there are two ways to get into the Keys there. And what they did back in early April was set up a checkpoint, and if you're not a resident or have legitimate business in the Keys, you were turned around and sent home. And that was in order to slow down the spread of the coronavirus. And what they did was there was within weeks, there were protests on people with businesses, which I understand, and people people that have business, people who work in business, protesting the checkpoint, saying it's a constraint of business, it's unconstitutional, and they overstepped their bounds. So, and there was a lawsuit filed also. So eventually, the open up crowd came, and I am, financially, I am with the open up crowd, and I have been going to work, and I have been washing my hands and wearing a mask, and I haven't manifested any of the symptoms. I mean, that doesn't mean I haven't been in contact or even contracted it. My wife and daughter haven't done the same. But there are people, and as of today, I'd say we're north or south but we're right around the 1,000 infected mark. And there's so so Monroe County did all this uh, uh, stuff, the checkpoints and opening up, and then had 50%. We had the phased openings and things like that they had for Florida State, and there was state mandated and there was county mandated. And Key West is doing something a little different. You have to wear a mask every time you leave your house and things like that. I guess, there's a psychology behind it. The psychology behind it is that you have to have a mask. There's a lot of people that even though all restaurants were requiring people to wear masks when they're coming in here, all restaurants were supposed to be requiring it while they were opening. But some of them weren't. We realized that when people come in, they say, well, there's different rules at different places. I said, no, it's not different rules at different places. It's different enforcement in different places. Let me reiterate that. The rules are the same. The enforcement is different. Just like when kids go out and they're drinking beer and vodka and other things, saying, "Oh, the rules are different here, because we get to do whatever we want." No, the law is still the same. You're not allowed to drink and things like that, but they're not being enforced right now. And if when the authorities come around and they see that, that's when you're cited or given a ticket, things like that. And there's good reason for that, because that young people are more irresponsible with the use of those controlled substances. That being said, so Tuesday they had a Zoom meeting. They called for it on Monday because next week, and this is July 22nd. So next week at this time will already have been a little less. I think it's sunrise to. We're a little over 24 hours at this time next week. We'll be a little more than 18 hours into lobster mini season, and that's the early season where they allow people, just regular citizens, come down, and it's throughout the state. And there's limits are different from wherever you go, but I think it's in Monroe County, it's 6 lobster per person per day. And I'm a big believer in not thinking that it's a good idea either way, because I think the commercial people and locals should have that. If you're coming down here to grab 6 lobsters and stuff like that, I don't quite get it, but I don't have a problem. I realize most people don't abuse the limits, but what happens to the people that do abuse the limits, they do it so drastically and without thought that no one takes that's watching or paying attention takes an extra lobster. What they do is they take 18 extra. I mean, as many as they fit in a cooler. They'll do that. They'll load up coolers. Some people that are lazy, they'll just keep loading their coolers, and if they get to be stopped, because there's a lot of people out there and there's very little enforcement, what happens is they just get away with it, or they fill up their limit for the day and they put it in a cooler and exchange it with someone and go to the docks, and they keep on going, because if they get stopped by enforcement, as long as they don't have 6 lobster per person on a boat, they won't get fined. And it's pretty stiff for filing that. So they were talking, they thought, because of all the Florida being the epicenter for the spread now in the coronavirus in the United States and the world, that that was a good reason to have a meeting to maybe think about curtailing many seasons, which was just a shadow play, because they were doing this meeting about 8 days before. They'd have to send a letter to the state, 8 days before it starts, and they'd have to send a letter to the state, and the state, it's called the FWC, and the authority, one of the authorities, whether they would curtail that lobster season in Monroe County in order to keep people from rushing down here, because everything's shut down in Miami. All the restaurants are closed in Miami-Dade. The restaurants are closed to in-house dining, so we have that down here. So what happened is they had the meeting, and they had some people show up. Most of the people that were talking were for, oh, you can't do it. One of the commissioners, Commissioner Cates, said his family church has been doing it for 40 years, and you know, and I understand it. The actual getting the lobster is not a spreading event. It's the congregating in one particular place. Let's say at clubs and bars and stuff like that. And people come down and they get together and they have big parties and things like that. And this is where it comes down to my anecdotal evidence about restaurants and bars and parties and things like that. We all heard about the coronavirus parties where people get together and they bet to see who contracts coronavirus first, so who tests for it first, and then they collect money, or trying to get the coronavirus, and then there's been stories of people getting it and they then regretting it afterwards. And then if you do manifest the symptoms, you will regret it if it's severe enough. So the idea is now, stay with me on the thought experiment. If you're from a place like Pennsylvania, New York, the Northeast, where or certain parts of the Midwest or the Northwest, where they have it under control, there's an uptick of cases, but it's not going through the roof, and you got maybe 25 to 30% of your ICU capacity used, and you got 70% room. You're sitting pretty. And if you believe that your state did a good job and it makes sense to wear a mask and stay social distance, you may not choose to go and take a vacation or a visit to Florida. Right? Would that be the place you'd go to? Would you go to Texas? Would you go to Arizona? Would you go to Georgia, which is also spiking a lot? No, you go to other places. And so what do we end up here with in Florida? Well, we have a hodgepodge of things. We have, if you think about, right now the bars and restaurants are not busy at all. Not busy. Last night we didn't have, oh God, we may have had like 15 takeout orders and maybe 5-6 tables, right? And the people that are coming, and we had, some of them are locals, and then some of the locals don't believe it. Yes, some locals don't, but not enough locals, because I've been here in time where they're in September and October, when there's not a lot of visitors from out of town. There's still a lot of locals, and we're a locals place. Our restaurant, the Catch Restaurant in Key Largo, is a locals place, and they're not coming out. They're ordering to go. A lot of our regulars aren't coming to our place, and when I see them at the supermarket, I ask them, and they say, well, we're staying close to home and trying to be safe and all that. And so they get it. But the people that go out have a tendency to people that poo-poo the threat of infection. And if there is an infection, it's no big deal. And they're out there. And then there's also people that are just lonely, and they don't live with anybody, and the only chance they have to interact with someone is to sit at a table near the bar and just have a drink, so they're not sitting home drinking by themselves. I know exactly how that was, because first of all, I drank by myself all the time. I love drinking by myself. I don't suggest that you do. This is bad. It's not necessarily a good thing for you. But I understand being, if you're lonely, you want to go out, you want to be around people. But now they're looking around, they don't see people. What they see is, we got the lonely people, we got the people that don't believe it, the people that have to go out because they're in business. I see businessmen that are doing their things, and they'll come in, they'll wear the mask, they'll go to their table, they'll sit down, they'll order, then they'll get up and leave. They don't walk over and talk to people and stuff like that. And then you have crazy people, just people that aren't, the Latin term, incompos mentis, incompetent mentally. They just don't make the right decisions. So if you're in if you're in deep into some kind of addictive behavior, you're not going to care. And if you're just one of those people that don't believe in it, you're not going to care. So that's what we're getting right now. Obviously, we're losing all the people that come to dine in that recognize that dining in, the reason why uh, the restaurants in Miami-Dade close to in-house, because they believe that dining in-house, because you walk in the way the state, you have a mask, you walk up to your table, and obviously if you're going to eat, you can't leave a mask on. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. But it's also a chance where you're sitting there for a long time with people, anywhere from 45 minutes to like 2 hours. Last night we had people sitting together for 2 hours, and it was like 6 people, and 2 other people joined them, who weren't with the crowd, but they decided to, because they just don't see it as something that's pertinent to them. Maybe someone hasn't been affected yet, but once we did see people that used to come in who were on the fence, and once someone they knew got infected, they stopped going there. So that's my theory of what's happening. So we're rolling into our weekend now, where we have the people are bringing down their boats, and they close down all the public ramps in the upper Keys. All the ramps that are controlled by the county, I guess, because they can't do the state or any private ramp. So if there's a restaurant that has it, like there's the Caribbean Club, they can launch as many boats as they want, and you have people going in, which I understand. Getting on a boat and going out to get lobster is no big deal. What happens is they rent homes down here. There's a lot of the people that have boats, they rent homes. They don't. Some of them go to motels and things like that, but motels don't necessarily have the facilities to be able to store a trailer or truck. So what happens is some of the Miami crowd and up there, and there's the lobster mini season is definitely heavily local event. Local mean local to South Florida, and then people come down here with their boats because there's a lot of shoreline. And that's where you get the lobsters near the coast. And we have, there's a lot of people that, and actually, and I'll reiterate, getting the lobsters going in the water and all that stuff. The lobsters don't have it, no. But what happens is when you have like 20 people at your house, and you're not supposed to have 20 people at the house, but this is what they do. They get a big thing. You get tons of people coming around. You're going to see next week. We're going to see some houses with like 6, 7 cars in front of it, and you think, well, you have 6, 7 cars. You at least 6, 7 people, right? Unless you're a collector, obviously, but they're for rental. You think it's not a collector. People don't bring their car collections to a rental property, so they'll come in, they'll do their thing, they go and grab their lobsters, and then they have a big party at their house and stuff like that. That's the spreader event right there. And then they try to go out to restaurants and bars and things like that. And we have bars that are more or less, some are enforcing it, some aren't. And now you don't have to shut down if one of your workers tests positive. And it's probably, if you think about it, the best probably spreading thing right now, if you've seen the diagrams or stuff like that, pictures of it, one mask does not save you from getting the corona. It's maybe 5-10% effective, right? But it more prevents you infecting someone else. So you have the worker who's serving you coming over and doing that, and bringing food, bringing your drinks, touching things, and that's where most of it can happen. And now when the infected people come in and sit at the table, and you're picking up their glasses and that, and they're breathing on you, that'll be where the point of contact will be, and that's where the chain is connected, where we have that. When you talk about R factors, how many people does the infected people infect? and you get your mass spreader. Last Saturday we had a group of people. They were in their late 20s, early 30s, and they're out drinking, and they're making jokes about the mask and stuff like that. I guess they don't have any parents or older people they care about coming around, or they don't believe it. It's no big deal. They don't believe it. But I knew at least one person whose parents were in their 60s, and I know they're relatively close, and they see them at least once a week. So I don't know how that will turn out. So we're looking at this weekend coming up where people are coming down. They're starting to pick out their spots. They're starting to pick out where their boats are going. They got to figure out where they're going to put their boats in the water, because you need, if you're not at all familiar with boating culture, you trailer a boat, you take the boat to the ramp, you back it up, and you drop the boat in the water, and then you pull your whatever vehicle you're driving with the trailer, that trailered the boat, and you pull over and park it. And then when you're done, when you're taking the boat out, you back it back in, you ride the boat back up. And that last year or the year before, we had some great fun going to places like the Caribbean Club, to private and public boat ramps, and watching people that aren't really familiar with trailering a boat or dropping it in the water or putting it back. That's the best. I think the most exciting time is watching someone pick up a boat. If you see, you could probably see that on YouTube. If you put boat ramp fails, there'll be a ton of things you can see that would be kind of really, really funny, as long as no one's hurt, So yeah, it's not. So if people are bitching that they're, God, the lobster mini season is going to go on. 8 days prior, nothing was going to happen. That was political theater. They were just doing it, and they took phone calls from people out of county who don't live here. They go say, "Well, I own." Just like I own several properties and stuff like that. And I heard someone actually on Facebook said, to him, and says, "Oh, well, people that don't want someone coming down and say, you probably rent. You probably rent." Like they don't have a right to say anything if they're renting. They have to own a business down here. Only if certain people down here have this reactionary idea that if you don't own property, or you don't have, you're not vested in it completely by owning property and hiring people and stuff like that, shut the fuck up. You have any right to say anything. And they're tired, they don't want to hear it. And I'm saying, that's their thing. But you know what? When the election day rolls around, there's most of the people that vote in mass are the people that own stuff. They do vote. They vote almost 95% of the time. I've seen people down here. One guy, he's been spouting I've known him for years, but he's a Trump guy. And then I said, well, you get your chance to vote for him in a couple months. And he goes, "Oh, I don't vote." I said, "You're a Trump supporter. You don't vote? How's he going to win if you don't vote?" I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of people that used to sit on the fence that didn't vote the last time, or just vote for the sake of not seeing this bloated piece of shit out there. I want to send, before I sign off, I want to send a poignant notice to the people in the Northwest, especially Portland. I think whatever's going on right now with the DHS paramilitary, I don't even know what to call them. They're enforcement officers showing up to protect government property, but with these unmarked vans and no badges, and not identifying themselves, and not Mirandizing people, and just zipping away from it. It just smacks of fascism. And at this point of the broadcast, they were talking about sending some of these to Chicago and things like that. I think what we're going to find out in the end, they have other enforcement duties other than internal security. And so I think what they might be doing is getting, uh, either this happened right after 9/11, where they formed the Department of Homeland Security. They had to get a hodgepodge of people from other agencies in order to create that agency. It started out small. The former governor of Pennsylvania, Tom Ridge, was the first secretary. It started out small, and then they had to hire their own people and train them and things like that. So right now, I think what they're using is contractors that come in, or use people that are retired, because they're showing some pictures, and the guys seem to be a couple years north of retirement age, and some of them younger. So they could be using contract workers like they would with the TSA. But this is real short term. They're sending them out, and they're sending, I think, they may be sending them in groups and keeping them in tight groups, maybe 50 to 100, and sending them out. Whether they have a true effect, they won't have an effect on Chicago. If you send 100, yes, the murder rate and shots and all that stuff is up in Chicago right now, yes. But these guys are not patrolling those neighborhoods. They're going to be near government buildings, and then they're going to wander out in force, a group of whatever they need to get to an area to isolate someone if they want to take them in. So what they do is they would go out with like 10 to 20 guys, make sure that they're not overwhelmed, and do that. And they're firing. Last night, the mayor of Portland spoke at a rally that wasn't violent, but tear gas was sent out. The mayor was there, so it wasn't a bunch of looters and things like that. And someone fired tear gas, and they're not going to be able to prove that it was. Well, maybe they can. Maybe they could say it was government-issued tear gas and stuff like that. But using flashbang grenades and stuff like that. And who knows? It could be a matter of time where someone decides to bring their own personal firearm in. And I'm talking about the federal officers, and start shooting in the crowd, because there's a lot of pressure on those guys too. In the end, they may think they're doing the right thing, but there's probably going to be a couple of them that are going to look at it, and they're going to see people that are apprehended without being given their due process, no Mirandizing and things like that. Kind of stuff we would do for terrorists around the world, where you go and get them and take them into rendition sites in Ukraine, but they're doing here in the United States. So I think they probably have plenty of facilities. They have detainment facilities that they've been using for immigration right now, and there may be who knows, there's probably excess capacity there from the efforts they've been making. So they'd probably be able to keep people there, because they're not putting them into the detainment areas that are used in the cities. They have to use a federal one, because they will never let. I believe that the federal authorities will not house people in a state system unless they have beginning to end control over who gets in and who gets out. But that's just my druthers right now. So I'm going to keep on speaking here, and I have my voice, I have my podcast, and now I have my phone number, which no one used today, but who knows? We may get calls. I'll keep on doing that. I'll keep on making phone calls. The weather it's been rainy the last week and a half, and I've been constantly flipping the areas around my house that have contained water, making sure they're all drained so we don't have any mosquitoes. That's the one thing about the tropics people have to realize down here, and especially, I guess, different parts of the country. You get a lot of them get mosquito infestations, but the tropics, where we're more prone to. Right now, there's a dengue outbreak here, and it's not quite as dangerous as COVID-19, but it is pretty serious, and it's horrible when you get it. And was an outbreak actually in my area, Key Largo. So in order to combat that, we have to get rid of all the standing water every day. You got to be vigilant of that. So when it rains, you go out there and dump it. You look at old tires, wheelbarrows, anything that collects water. Because even just they suggest even like a bottle cap you can see you can put a mosquito would land and drop its eggs in there and it would hatch. I don't know how many, if it's one day the germination or whatever period for the eggs is. 1 day or 2 days, but it's really quick. So you just stay on it, keep on dumping it, get rid of it, clean it out. And I've been pretty vigilant on that, doing my part, because I believe that is the thing. And it's funny, the people, conspiracy theorists, they believe that's the thing too, but they don't believe COVID-19 right now. So they're out there doing it. We're dealing with that down in Keys. I know you're probably dealing with it in your areas if you're in Atlanta. I'm sure in some of the foreign countries, we have the asshole president of Brazil that ignored the warnings. So, but you know what's the thing? I saw a graphic on the news that showed, I think there was, I'm going to go high. They showed 15 countries in the world that were allowing Americans to come. Now, I'll start at the top. Let's start at the top. The United Kingdom. United Kingdom's allowing Americans. There's one country in South America. I think Cambodia is one. There is a former Soviet republic. It looks like it could be Belarus. No, it's too small. Probably like Kazakhstan or something like that. Which, if you never had the opportunity to see, you probably just seen a representation of Kazakhstan in the movie Borat. But I mean, I hear it's lovely. Except, I don't know if they have any self-service there or anything like that. Maybe they do. Maybe they do have it there. You can go to Kazakhstan. You can go to Cambodia. That's nice. They got those places. I'm trying to remember. There's maybe some places in Africa, one or two. I saw, Egypt. I think it was Egypt. Egypt's allowed Americans into it. So, yeah, you can't go, it's funny because, was it July 20th? It's 51 years ago, an American walked on the moon, but now they can't legally walk in Canada or the Bahamas. So, yeah, that guy, he certainly is making America great again. We are number one. We are the number one pariah in the world. And eventually, I believe we're going to get back to it where we're accepted as the place to travel to and things like that. But right now, you're going to see tourism drying up in the United States. You're going to get some people that come in. But for now, until we get, figure out how to turn this ship around, which it is not going in the right direction, what they're saying. It certainly is. We are definitely going down the tubes, but we're going to find out on November 4th, and we'll find out if the guy will leave, if he loses, if he decides to leave 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, or does he have to be forcibly? And there is some cracks in the monolithic support by his party right now. We see Liz Cheney, we see Mitt Romney, a couple other guys. You see there's some of the Republicans just disrespecting other Congress people and stuff like that. Listen, when you run out of any argument, you're going to start cursing, And I use curse words, right? If you listen to the show, I was using curse words before all this happened. And I just think that when you resort to threats and things like that, and it's just so funny to see the right-wing crowd. They said, what was the one thing they said? Why do you have to have so many guns? What if the government comes in and tries to attack us? Well, what's happening in Portland right now is the government. And what do you hear from the guy's gun rights people. You don't hear shit. Just when it doesn't fit their narrative, they're not going to talk about it. So for now, yeah, you'll notice that I wasn't talking about any sponsorships or things like that. I don't think anybody wants to really touch this, but I don't really want to make any money right now from this. I'm just doing, this is my platform. I get whatever, couple hundred to 1,000 people an episode to listen to it. Yes, I get that out. That's all I'm doing. It's not for any financial gain. Once things are back to normal, maybe we can do that. And I don't see where it's us getting back to normal till first of all, it's not, this isn't going to go away anytime soon. I mean, it have to be a great vaccine. And the hard part on that vaccine stuff is there's going to be people you don't, first of all, you started this conspiracy bullshit about putting chips in people with the vaccine and stuff like that, talking Bill and Melinda Gates, and now they're investing $1.95 billion with Pfizer to develop and distribute a vaccine. Now, how are you going to convince your supporters to get vaccinated after saying all your shit, after all your conspiracy people said shit about it? So you got your anti-vaxxers out there. You got your no mask wearers. You got that it's phony stuff. And then now you're going to have to try to convince those people that after you said all that, you're going to have to convince them how. You're going to get, now, in order to stop this, we're going to give you a vaccine. No, I'm not going to get a vaccine. You told me a while ago it was bad. It's going to turn me into a communist. Now, listen. Do yourself a favor. If you can't get smart right now, just keep it to yourself. Because you're really, it's dwindling. You have dwindling numbers that are occurring. You're going to have naturally dwindling numbers just from the people on the border, the people that used you, money people that used you to get their agenda across, and now they're going to be done with you. But you're not going to want to take a vaccine, and they're going to get their vaccines, the smart ones, the Mitch McConnells, all those other people. They're going to get vaccines. You're not going to get the vaccine. I understand that, and your family's going to get sick and ill, and the next time it rolls around, you're going to do it. So, I mean, I don't see a way out of it. In the United States, we're going to be a bunch of anti-maskers. There's going to be people that won't want to get a vaccine. So until then, we'll see how this plays out. Like I said, history is going to be the one to really describe it how it is. And you know what? United States isn't going to look so good that way. In the end, they're going to say it was hopefully on November 4th, they're going to say it was a blip. It was a blip in our electoral process where people figured out how to do it. A foreign country helped manipulate some of the votes, and we had to experience this. We had to go through this. But there's always going to be a group of people. During World War II, there were people that supported the Nazis. They were American. And then in the 60s, who's the guy? There was a 60s guy, a white supremacist, and all that stuff. There's going to be this for a while until we educate the people enough. But who knows what's in the hearts of men? Who knows what's in the hearts of men? The Shadow knows. It's an old show from the 30s and 40s, a radio show. I hope everyone stays safe. The people that are listening, I hope you take care of yourself. And let's see how everything plays out. I'll be back. Maybe I'll be back over the weekend. Who knows if there's any new developments here. Take care. God bless. And this is Jim the Keys, bartender, signing off. Remember, the next time we have a live show, record this number, this phone number. I'll put it on the show. It's 407-392 888-878-4563, and we'll take your phone calls. And I'll do give you a little heads up. Maybe I'll do one on a Thursday night. Hopefully we can get some live listeners there. Talk to you later. Bye.